I'm going to introduce our amazing speaker, Candy Barone. Candy has not been here for a long time, but boy, uh, I think our virtual stage has not cooled off from the last time she was here. She is one dynamite person. She is the CEO of You Empowered Strong, and the topic of her talk today is habits, discipline, and routine. Oh my! She is a leading leadership development expert, a trainer, an executive coach, as well as an international speaker and Amazon best-selling author. She is a catalyst and change agent who works with executives and emerging leaders to help bring heart back to leadership while feeding the soul of their business. With nearly 20 years in corporate, combined with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, certification as a Six Sigma black belt, and an MBA, she is a master at building exceptional high performing teams, maximizing and leveraging ROI, growing emerging leaders, creating metrics for greater accountability, and catapulting individuals to achieve explosive growth. That sounds so painful. She is a member of the Forbes Coaching Council. She was named a 2014-15 VIP Woman of the Year by the National Association of Professional Women. She was the recipient of the 2015 Public Speakers Association Local Collaborator Award. She was nominated as a 2015 Profile and Power Central Texas Woman of Influence. She has also been showcased in CNN, U.S. News and World Report, South by Southwest, Fast Company Grill, the Austin Statesman, Austin Business Journal, Be the Boss Magazine, Offbeat Business Magazine, the Chicago Tribune, CI Living TV. I'm not sure exactly how you say it. Is it Cy Living TV? Femmes Under 40 magazine, along with numerous radio shows and podcasts. Oh my goodness. She is amazing. She currently lives in Austin with her dog Peyton and enjoys her free time outdoors, on the water, spending time with friends, reading or working out. No more delays. Please give a warm welcome, however you can do that, to Candy Barone.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. It is an honor and a pleasure to be back here. It has been like forever that I've been here. Oops, I think I just knocked myself off here. What am I doing? Okay. So here, I've got some news for all of you. I am not going to do a slideshow. There is no presentation. There is no slide. We are going to have some fun. We're going to get activated. We're going to engage because I figure that most of you have been on Zoom calls nonstop, and it's been a lot of slides and it's been a lot of listening. So I want you guys to engage in the chat today. I want you to engage with the reactions so that I can see you. And I'm actually, so you can be on camera or not. We're going to have some opportunity to play together, but I'm curious, and you can just drop a, that's me, a yes, or you can just do the little reactions, thumbs up. How many of you came into 2021 thinking, okay, this is going to be the year? 2020 was sort of a, we all know what 2020 was, right? And we're like, okay, January 1, I'm resetting the clock, right? Thank you. I see some hands up and I see some of the comments, right? So we all came into 2021 going, this is it. We're just going to say goodbye to 2020. We're going to put a pin in it. And then how many of you got into January and were like, it's like December 38th? Like it's still 2020. We haven't really moved out of anything. It doesn't feel like anything shifted. And so it was interesting. I was talking to a client of mine and I was like, how did the first week of January go? She goes, you mean December 38th? I was like, yeah, it does feel like it's been about December 38th, right? So how many of you, when we got into February and some of the energy started to shift, right? So I'm actually looking at February as being our clean slate and our new year. And so I'm curious, again, just drop a comment in the chat. How many of you are big New Year's resolutions people? Like you came into the new year and you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to put these habits together. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to do like this whole clearing the deck. And I'm going to, reset everything. And I'm going to come out and emerge and be this huge butterfly and be something different. Anybody relate to that? Anybody get really fired up? You have your own ritual. It's probably a couple glasses of wine. You write your intentions or you speak them out loud. And you've got this just laundry list of New Year's resolutions. Well, I see a mix. I see some people that say yes and some people that say no. How many of you that set the resolutions already are like, yeah, those have kind of gone out the window and none of those are actually happening. And I've found myself kind of back in old patterns or habits or, whatever. The reason I say that is because New Year's resolutions in and of themselves don't really work. They don't set us up for success. They oftentimes, and here's why they don't work. And so I love that. Is that pro wine or a con? I love that. Hey, wine can be a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes I need a glass of wine to actually settle in, right? So I'm actually going to keep track of the comments because I want to engage with you guys in this conversation. And so, yes. Oh, Cherie, I love that. I love that you're doing Atomic Habits. One of my favorite books, by the way, if you guys want a great resource on how to set habits. In fact, as she posts that, this is a great resource. And so we're going to get into some things around how to establish better habits, because New Year's resolution, yes, Tally, I appreciate that. How many of you keep wiping the slate clean, right? You're like, okay, well, I'm going to start new on Monday. I'm going to start new on Tuesday. I'm going to start new March 1st. I'm going to give myself kind of a break in February, right? So whatever it is, what happens is when we set these very broad overarching goals, we often set ourselves up for failure. And here's why. New Year's resolutions don't work a lot of the time because, one, they are too big. They're too big. They don't have any kind of real concrete meat to them that says this is meaningful. This is what I really want to accomplish. And they're not as outcome focused in terms of what do I want to feel? What do I want to access? And there's no connection to why that matters for you. Oftentimes we should all over ourselves. And for some of you, if you think I said something different, it's the same thing. You're shooting all over yourself. And so you put these New Year's resolutions oftentimes out there that say, hey, I should lose 20 pounds. I should start, working out. I should start doing these things. I should, whatever. And what happens is there's not a connection to why that matters to you. There's not a connection to what makes that meaningful. It's just this arbitrary, well, this is the New Year's resolution. This is my year of health. And this is what it should look like, right? Yes, we spend a lot of time shitting all over ourselves. So I want you to think about the fact that when we get into this space of New Year's resolutions, one, they're oftentimes way too big, or there's somebody else's version of what we think we should be doing. So everybody else is doing it, so I guess I should be too, right? So there's no real connection to why does that matter for me? Why is that meaningful? The other thing that gets in our way is when they're so big, it's like we're trying to boil the ocean or we're trying to eat the whole elephant in one bite, instead of breaking it down into something that's actually tangible. In addition to that, we're like, okay, well, I'm just going to lose all this weight. We don't break it down into then what do I need to be doing on a daily and weekly basis that aligns with that opportunity that says this is the next version of what I want to be. So I want to break down and have you guys like maybe get rid of this notion of setting goals, setting New Year's resolutions, and talk a little bit more today around habits, discipline, and routines. Oh my. And so when we talk about habits, I want you to think about a habit is nothing more than an automated response to a situation or circumstance or a reaction to something, right? It's when something happens, you have an automated way of doing things. When you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth. That is an automated response to a situation. So a habit in and of itself is just an automated response. The routine is a series of habits or a series of automated responses that you have joined together that becomes something that you put into practice to actually allow yourself to achieve whatever result you want. And one of the things I want you guys to think about for a moment is that habits are neither good or bad. Habits actually are not good, bad, they're indifferent, because one person's good habit might be someone else's bad habit. And so I love the kind of the statement around one person's junk is another man's treasure. It's kind of the same thing with habits. Just because a habit serves someone else doesn't mean a habit's going to serve you. And we're going to talk about that because we're going to play a little bit here in a minute, where I want you to think about, because one of the things that gets in our way is that we think habits are a one size fits all. Just because John down the street has a morning routine that looks like this, I think I have to put my routine in practice, create the habits that look exactly like John. And what I don't realize is oftentimes I'm resisting that because I'm actually wired very differently. And so for some of you right now that are in this really deep transition, and I just want you guys to realize, I know Kathy introduced me and said I have 20 years of corporate. I've been in your shoes before. I was actually in a transition. I've been in a couple transition periods in my life, truthfully, some on my own accord. So when I left corporate and moved into starting my own business, I actually wiped the entire slate clean. I got out of a relationship. I left corporate. I moved from Milwaukee to Austin. I got a dog. I wrote a book. I started a business because it's just kind of how I roll. Some of you are like, oh my God, that would freak me out. Some of you are like, God, how many more things could you put on your plate, right? So I've been through transitions that were self-imposed, and I've been through transitions where I was let go unexpectedly when I worked at Johnson Controls after winning the Chairman's Award, after being told I was one of 1,000 people selected that was an up-and-coming leader. I literally got told that on a Tuesday, and the next day, Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., I was let go. I was let go because there was a merger with York. I made people nervous because of the work my team was doing, that it showcased areas where we had gaps. And so all of a sudden I found myself out of a job. I've been in your space and I understand some of the fear and the anxiety and the stories and the things that show up in that space. I also understand the need for us to put habits and routines and discipline in place that serve us. It gets really easy to fall off and be like, well, I'm going to get to that tomorrow. If you're not creating that time, and Kathy was talking about that LinkedIn, if you're not going out there regularly, if you don't have a discipline to be seeing what's going on, to be engaging in conversation, to be reaching out to your network, to be finding ways to connect with people, to get the fact that you're looking out there, if you're sitting back and waiting, you might find yourself sitting back and waiting for a really long time. So you've got to find ways to align yourself to what you want to open up access for and activate that through your habits, your routine, and your discipline. So the habit is just that automated response. The routine is then the sequence of habits that you have kind of put together that is actually meaningful for you. And the discipline is the actual practice. So it's the mindset, it's the work, it's the decision-making you need to do in order to get something established as a habit. One of the beautiful things about habits is once you get to that thing that is automated, that serves you for what you need, it actually helps take the decision-making process out of the equation. What it does is it frees you up of needing to make a decision in every point. When you're in the space of discipline, you're still making that decision. Do I really want to work out today? I know it's freezing. Do I really want to go in my garage and work out and do my training? There's ways we have to make those decisions until it becomes something that's automated in a habit. So I want to put that out there for a minute, because as we start to talk about that, I want to talk about some of the reasons why habits don't work for people. One, it's because you're trying to change the wrong thing, or you're trying to do something simply because it's that shoulding space that you're doing all over yourself. The other reason is you're trying to change habits in the wrong way. So it may not be set up to help you create success for yourself. Because let me ask a question for a minute. If we were just to kind of play, and I'm curious, light up, I want you guys to put this in the chat because I'm curious. I'm going to ask you kind of a this or that, just to give you an example, right? So this or that, are you this kind of person or are you that kind of person? So I just want you to put which one you are. Are you a morning person? Are you a lark? Which is kind of that morning person, you get up and you're like singing because it's the morning and you're like just someone who bounces out of bed? Or are you a night owl where, you know, mornings are like you're hitting the snooze 20,000 times? I'm going to tell you I'm a night owl. I am not a lark, even though I've created some ways to get up earlier. How many of you are the lark and how many of you are the night owl? Okay. So think about that. Do you think for a moment, if I'm a night owl, should my habits look the same as someone who's naturally a lark? If your energy is highest in the morning, if you're someone who gets your creativity, because you literally, and I love you, all of you larks, let me just say I love you and have a lot of respect for you, but you annoy the crap out of me. I've had some of you be around and you wake up and you're literally singing in the morning. I grunt in the morning. I'm just going to say, I'm a very positive person, but do not talk to me the first half hour to an hour in the morning. All you're going to get is a grunt from me. I am not a socially happy, charged, singing. I need to ease into my morning. I don't care how many ways I set habits. Me just bouncing out of bed in the morning, I'm not Tigger in the morning. For those of you that are like, holy cow, man, you get up and you're like, I'm at it. I'm at the gym. I'm doing this. I'm rolling. Then the morning is the time to put in your substantial work, to create the habits that are going to most serve you, because that's when your energy is being generated. That's when your creativity is lit up. For those of you that are like me, that, man, I get a wind. Now, mind you, right now I'm all lit up because I'm here with all you guys. And by the way, this actually amps up when I get into my sweet spot, which is like 2 to 5. And then I get another sweet spot, like 7 to, I don't know, 9 or 10 at night. Man, my creative stuff comes out when I'm at night. I just get into a zone and I'm like all fired up. I like to train at 4:15 in the afternoon. Now, it's not to say I haven't trained at 6 in the morning. Let me just say my happiness level is very different if I'm training out at 4:15 versus training out at 6 in the morning. So if I'm a night owl, why would I try to create habits that serve a lark? So I want you to think about that for a minute, right? We tend to set ourselves up for failure because we're not connecting the way we show up. We're not connecting our discipline. We're not connecting the habits that we want to the way we're naturally wired. Okay, yes, I'm like, seriously, I need some coffee. I need water. I need to wake up before people start firing at me. People get on my schedule. They'll find you cannot have a conversation with me. This is working out perfectly. I don't let people on my calendar before 10 in the morning. I don't officially start my workday till 9 a.m. But I also do late evening hours. So I'm a great person for people that want to coach with somebody who's like, can I have some evening hours? Because that's when I'm fired up. That's when I'm in my zone, right? So I want you to think about that. Here's another this or that. So those of you that have kind of assessed who you are, I want you to think about, are you a marathoner or a sprinter? And here's what I mean by that. And some of you are just a plain procrastinator, so get honest with that as well. How many of you are like, you like a slow, steady pace? Like you like to have a project and you like to just slow, steady. Okay, I am not a marathoner. I am a sprinter. I like blasts and bursts of energy. I like to run to the tape. I like something that gives me an explosive energy, and then I like to like do something else. Okay, so I want you to think about it. Now, some of you are just a plain old procrastinator and you think you're a sprinter, because how many of you get fired up with deadlines? Like you actually, I'm gonna raise my hand. How many of you, when you know there's a pending deadline, you kind of push it out because you actually get juice knowing the deadline's getting smaller and smaller? Like you get fired up knowing you've got a pressing deadline that's like kind of biting you in the butt. I create. So one of the habits I create for myself is self-imposed deadlines because it's a challenge. It's a game. Now, some of you, like I said, are just procrastinators. That's a totally different energy. You marathoners are going, oh my God, I hate deadlines. If somebody gives me 2 weeks out, it's getting done this Thursday. How many of you, right? So would we create the same habits? If you're a marathoner, why would you then set yourself up to be a sprinter? Two different kind of races. My sister's a marathon runner for real. She's run 8 marathons. God bless her. I've done 1 half marathon, and let me tell you, it about killed me. I played soccer. People are like, but you ran all the time. Soccer is short blasts of cuts and turns. It is sprinting. It is moving up the field and it's moving down the field. Plus there's a ball, so it's not about the running. I don't understand people that cycle for 50 miles on a road that's the same thing over and over again. Some of you that are marathoners are like, oh, that's my happy space. I'm like, give me a punching bag. So I need you to realize that we're wired differently, okay? So I love this. I love that you guys are putting this in, more like to force, right? So some of us get fired up when we have the pressure, when we have that like adrenalized pressure of getting something done. We like to stack multiple things on top of each other. Some of you are like, one thing, let me complete it. Let me do it at a slow space. So I want you to think about, are you the tortoise or the hare? I am a hare by all means. I like to sprint, and then I like to sit back, and then I like to sprint, and then I like to sit back. Some of you are like, I just want an even pace all the time. So I'm planting some of these seeds because as we talk about how do you then establish habits, this matters because there's 3 ways we establish habits. But I want to give you a couple more of this or that because these are kind of fun. And I love seeing the comments in here. I hate deadlines, yet I'm on full blast on or off as far as my energy. Okay, because we're going to talk about that too. Are you someone who likes the familiarity of the same thing all the time? Are you someone who likes routine, or are you someone who likes novelty? I am not a routine person. I resist routines. So if I'm telling myself I have to put together a routine, I'm already in a, I hate this, I don't want to do this, right? Oh, and yes, thank you, Jim, for putting that. Some of you might be a mix in some of these, because I will tell you that for me, some of these are a depends. It depends on what space you're talking about. For example, this or that. Are you a underbuyer or an overbuyer? Are you someone that will like squeeze the last goo out of the toothpaste tube? Or are you someone like my sister who like leaves half the toothpaste still in there and like, okay, now I need to open a new one. And you're all about getting surplus. Like my mom's pantry, she cracks me up, and I get she came from a different era, but my mother and I, she's actually looking to move down here from Illinois, and she's in this process of, I have been for years telling her she needs to stop hoarding the crap she's got in her house. The woman lives alone and she had 100, and I'm not exaggerating, 100 coffee cups. I'm like, Mom, I visit 3 times a year. You have one neighbor that visits you. Why are there 100 coffee cups in this cabinet? You don't even have a kitchen that big for that. But my mother has this, like her pantry. She literally, when COVID first hit, my sister and I had a running joke that we were just going to drive up 15 hours to Illinois to raid my mom's pantry because she could feed half the city of Austin. Just because of what she stocks up on. She had spiral notebooks. The woman is retired, for crying out loud. She has spiral notebooks that the kids use in school. Then I'm like, what are you going to do with all these? They were on sale. So my mom is an overbuyer. I'm someone who's an underbuyer unless it comes to all my books. I have an addiction when it comes to books. I cannot not. But I think I need the next book. I need to read. I need this, right? So I want you to think about if you're an underbuyer or an overbuyer. That affects your habits. The last one, I want to give you one more. Are you somebody who's a finisher or an opener? Are you someone that gets more juice off taking a task to completion? Or are you somebody that gets more juice off starting something new? I'm going to tell you, I am not a finisher. I am notorious for starting How many of you have like started 20 different books you're going to write? Or is that just me? I literally have at least 20 different books outlined, written. I've started. I even have, here's me being an opener. While I have my MBA, I also have 2 other master's programs that I have a third of the program done before I was like, yeah, I don't really feel like doing this anymore. So I essentially have 3 different master's program work that I've done. I only finished one of them. Right? Shannon, yes, we are. So I want you to think about that, right? Do you get more excitement? Now, Jody, I love that you put that. You don't always get things finished, but you get more excited when you do. Now, here you just walked me into how we're going to talk about habits and the 3 things you need to know. There's a reason that if you are a finisher and you get juice off of completing the task, yet you find yourself not always completing things, it's because there's a misalignment. I love the way that Brendan Burchard says, look, it's not an achievement issue, it's an alignment issue. And so we're going to talk about the 3 ways that you can set habits. And we're going to talk about the one that's going to be the most effective. What happens is most people create habits based on what they're trying to change as the outcome. So people create habits to change an outcome. This is setting goals. This is New Year's resolutions. This is oftentimes that very wide open space around what am I going to get? What's going to be different? So it's all around an outcome. So oftentimes we only set our habits up to be connected to what's the outcome. I need a realignment. I love that, Tally. Don't we all? telling you, I'm always in a position for realignment. But yes, if you're struggling to not get what you want right now or to not make those things happen, it's an alignment problem, not an achievement problem. First of all, most of us are wired for achievement. We have a culture that pounds that into us, that says it's all about what you accomplish, what you get, what you achieve. We've lost the art. And Tony Robbins talks about this all the time, that there's two sciences we get to master. One is the science of achievement, which most people who have been in corporate America in any capacity have mastered the science of achievement. The science that we're lacking, and this is where the realignment comes in, the science that we're lacking is the science of fulfillment. How many of you are like, I don't even know what that word means? Candy, that is funny. Fulfillment. Please. And here's the thing. Most of us, if we look at our human design, are actually wired. 70% of the population is some kind of generator, which means our entire satisfaction comes from, or our entire space of authority comes from feeling satisfied in our life, feeling fulfilled. Yet everything that's been pounded into us has been all about achievement, all about accomplishment, all about how much we get done. It's all about the stuff we produce and what we get. So everything we do is trying to get more of that or change that. And what we don't realize is we're out of alignment because it's not meaningful. It's not fulfilling. So let's see, apart from alignment, can one include time constraints, pulling on yes. And so I'm going to get to that as well, because that plays into this. So I want you to think about the fact that the first level of creating habits is just about the outcome. I just want to change the results. I want to change the outcome. The next level is I need to change the process. So this is what you're actually doing. This is the routine. This is the systems. This is the way you're setting up your environment, right? So I want you to think about, that's kind of the second tier of how, if you want habits to stick, if you want to change your life and level up, if you want to move into and access something more, that second level then is all about, I got to change the way I'm doing things. I got to change. So for example, I want to lose weight. I'm focused on losing weight. And that's all I'm focused on. So then I need to look at, what's my process for eating? What's my process for working out and moving my body? What's my process for resting? By the way, some of you wonder why you can't reduce weight. It's because you're not giving your body time to rest. The weight doesn't come off in the training. The weight comes off when you give your body space to restore and repair. Do you have a process for that? Do you have a way that you're structuring things that's setting your environment, setting you up for success? So that's the second tier. The third tier is where the magic happens, though. This is where I want you guys, and this is why I did a little of the this and that. This is where I want you to think about what's possible. The third space is around changing your identity. I'm going to say that again. It's around changing your identity, which means your mindset and behaviors. This is around, and I'm going to give you an example. I have been first of all, I am a self-proclaimed, I am not a morning person. I have stopped saying that because I keep making that true. I am a morning person in a different way. I don't start my morning at 5 a.m. like some people. I start my morning like 7:30. When I get up, though, I have a very specific way I start my morning that serves me to help me ease in and get activated in the way so that I can show up with all of you. If I didn't do my morning routine this morning, I wouldn't have had the energy in the capacity that I do right now to show up. So I am a morning person in a way that works for me. So I have redefined that identity. The example I'm going to give you, I mentioned that I ran one half marathon. I am very clear I am not a runner, and I've gone back to that identity because I'm not a runner. I've had 3 knee surgeries. I've had an Achilles surgery. It's like crazy. I'm going to come back to that question in just a minute, Herschel. Yes, and I'm going to come back to that because that's a really good question. So what I want you to think about is the fact that, so I'm going to run this half marathon, and I kept telling myself, I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. Well, let me tell you, if you set up training program when you're not a runner, it is going to be the most torturous thing on the planet, and you're not going to stick to it. If I kept telling myself I'm not a runner, the likelihood of me completing a half marathon would have been like non-existent. So I had to reclaim a new identity for myself that said, I now am a runner. I am going to complete the half marathon, right? And so I actually told myself I was going to complete it. Not that I had to run the whole thing. I was very clear about that. But I started to set a declaration for myself about who I was choosing to be in order to access, because what happens when you choose your identity is you say, I am a runner because, and then there's the powerful, compelling why that gets connected to it. I am a person who's looking for this job because it lights me up and I know I can contribute in this way. And this is meaningful for me. Some of you right now have been given the biggest gift. I know it feels like this just happened to you and you lost your job and you're in this space where you're like, okay, great. I don't know what to do. I just want to find another job. And I'm going to tell you, you've been given a beautiful opportunity to lean in and ask yourself, what do I really want? What fulfills me? And who do I want to become in this next chapter or this next book of my life? Because for those of you that are just looking to replace what you think you lost, you're missing the blessing in what's been given to you as the gift right now. Because right now, you've been given space to ask yourself, what is it I want to create, affect, influence, impact? Like, what is my living legacy? What do I want to be in this world? Who do I want to be? Why does that matter to me? Why does that light me up? Why is that meaningful for me? And then who do I want to serve as a result? When we get into that space, we start to connect our identity. Because here's the thing, you can all day say you're a runner, but if your behaviors do not match that, you are just doing nothing but lip service because your behaviors are indicative of your identity. So if you need to shift something, you need to create a different identity that says, I am now a half marathon runner. And so I changed my identity, which actually served me quite well because I had a very compelling reason why I needed to run this race. One was because I wanted to physically prove to myself, and this was to myself, not anybody else, prove to myself that with all the trials and tribulation I have faced in my life, the abuse I faced when I was younger, the butt kickings I got during my corporate career, as many of you can probably relate, there was just something about knowing my own level of resilience, knowing that I could push through what my mind kept telling me that, oh, I'm not this, I can't do that. I wanted to know that I wasn't going to get stuck in a self-sabotaging level of limiting belief that was going to keep me in a certain space. I wanted to know that I could aspire for more. And for me, physically, there was a way for me to challenge myself and do that. So I connected my why to that and started to embrace this identity that said, I am now a runner. I am now a half marathon runner. So I trained and it was not fun training. Let me just tell you, it's still not fun. However, it got my butt out there when it was weather like this, because I was living in Wisconsin, by the way. So I was either running laps around the Pettit Center, which was the most boring thing ever. If you've ever run in an indoor track, especially when you're starting to run like 12 and 13 mile or 7, 8, whatever, you start running your miles. Oh, I don't like running to begin with, but when you're running in the same circle over and over and over again, ugh, really not my thing, right? So I was outside, I was, whatever, and cold. Well, what happened was the race came. It was May 27th, I think was the race in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Well, when you're used to training, I know right now we're all belly aching because it's cold because we have no insulation and this is not normal for Austin. Yet when you're used to this weather, your body adapts, you adjust. However, we had a random opposite effect in Green Bay or Wisconsin that year, where the weather in May got extremely hot and humid out of nowhere. It went from like 20 degrees to like 85 and humid, which in Wisconsin is quite uncomfortable. And when you haven't been training to prepare for it, it makes for a whole other kind of set of problems. So I'm running this race and it's beating down. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's hot as Hades, humid as all out. And people are literally passing out in the marathon and the half marathon. Around mile 11, they announce we're closing down the race. You're only going to have this much time. We're closing down the race. If you don't make it through, you're not getting medals, whatever. And I was like, something in my brain said, hell no. I did not take on this identity and train that I'm like, come hell or high water, no matter what, I am finishing this race because I will never do this again. I promise you that. And I can remember in Green Bay, it was one of those, and I hate races like this, where like you come around the corner. And by the way, why there needs to be a 0.1 on a half marathon for me doesn't make sense, because the 13 is bad enough, but that 0.1 at the end is the longest distance you will run, especially when you come around the corner and it's hot asphalt. There's nothing there, and you can't see the end of the race because you have to actually come around a corner in order to complete it. It is the most treacherous thing, especially when it is just not your body's like jam. And everything in my brain said, I am a half marathon runner. I am a half marathon runner. I am a half marathon runner. I am completing. I have committed and declared to myself that I am completing this race. However, how I made it in, I was practically crawling at the end. I came through the end of the race. And I'm not kidding, probably 5 minutes after I came through, they closed the race down. It was that, I wasn't even 5 minutes. It was a couple minutes at best. They closed the entire race down. I still have that medal. I love the fact that I have that medal, because the thing was, because I created an identity, because I made a declaration and commitment to myself about who I was choosing to become, that regardless of what came at me, I was able to take it to task. Because I guarantee, had I not had an identity around that, I would have been like, screw this. This is ridiculous. Whoever does this, I wouldn't even have trained for the whole thing. I was able to complete the thing that was important to me. And so I say that because when you are sitting in a position right now, and I love that it's 11:11 for those of you that like your numbers and signs, I want you to realize that you've been given an opportunity to reset who you think you are, and more importantly, be very clear and set your intention about who you choose to become. So I want you to think about, if you're looking at creating something that's more expansive, if you're looking at accessing something new, if you realize that this opportunity that you're sitting in right now, where you're without a job, is the opportunity for you to ask yourself some questions to say, then what is it I really want? Who do I choose to be? And what are the steps, the habits, the things I need to put in place that's going to align with that, that's going to be the behaviors that align with the identity of who I say I am? And then you start showing up in your day every day like that. When you start asking yourself, am I this or that? Is this or that, this or that, this or that? Does that make sense for you guys? And I see the question, in your opinion, can one be multi-aligned, aligned to multiple goals at the same time? And I'm going to say yes and no to that. So here's the thing. Many of us are multidimensional. I mean, all of us are multidimensional human beings. We have different aspects of our life. You have one life, because a lot of people will say life-work balance. That's nonsense. It's life. And work is one of those buckets in your life. So you get to decide what is most meaningful for you. Now, when I work with people, I tell them that they can't have more than 3 priorities in their life at any given time. That is what they're aspiring to move towards. And I will say, because if you think about the word priority used to be singular for 500 years until somebody got some genius idea to put an IES on it and like make it plural. Priority means that one thing. It means what's the thing that's going to be the biggest needle mover for you? What's going to be the thing that's most meaningful? And I tell people, like, when we do work together, I'll be like, what's your 3 big rocks? One of them has to be personal, because you can't accomplish anything unless you put yourself first. And for some of you, a new habit might be stop thinking that putting yourself is selfish. I'm going to tell you it's actually selfish when you don't. You need to put yourself first so that your cup can be full or overflowing in order to put your gifts out into the world in the highest and best capacity. So again, for some of you right now, this is a grace period for you to restore and figure out what you need to make sure you're filling your cup every day, so that you're creating new boundaries, so that you're creating bookends on your day on how you start your day and end your day, so that whatever you step into next, you are activating your biggest and highest gifts at the highest level possible, so that you can serve the people that matter. What happens is, and many of you, how many of you, there's a part of you that's like, well, it sucks. I get it sucks to be in transition. It sucks to be laid off. But how many of you were like, holy crap, I got to sleep for the first time and whatever. Holy crap, I was beyond burnt out in my last job. And there's some aspect of this that's like a blessing in disguise. Holy crap, I didn't realize how exhausted I was. How many of you have felt that, right? Like you just going and going and going, and you're the hamster on that wheel, And first break since I was 18. Seriously, thank you, Brian, for the honesty on that. First break since you're 18. How many of you, your schedule legitimately before you were laid off, how many of you were like, I don't know when I'm going to the bathroom today? That was me when I worked at GE. For the love of Pete, I'd look at my calendar and go, holy crap, I better not drink water today. Which, by the way, keeps you energized because I don't know when the heck I'm going to go to the bathroom because I've got 3 TCONs all at the same time. Teleconference, for those of you that don't know what a TCON is. But think about that, right? Mentally, spiritually. How many of you not only have been mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted, you were spiritually exhausted? Like you lost your sense of who you are. Like you don't even know what's meaningful for you. How many of you are still going, Candy, I still don't know what fulfilled means. I don't know what it means to feed my soul. I want you guys to think for a minute. I'm going to ask you, and I usually do this in the beginning, but it's appropriate right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to think about, maybe not right now, because I'm kind of like putting the paddles on you. I'm amping you up, hopefully. I'm infusing a little energy. But before we had this conversation, if you were to think about your days on average, like the past week, the past month, 2021, on a scale of 1 to 10, how vibrant, alive, energized, engaged, and present do you feel in your life on a day-to-day basis? Love the honesty. Thank you. How, honestly, and I use those words for a reason, how present, alive, engaged, energized, activated, vibrant are you feeling? Oh, I love the 11. Thank you. But look at these numbers. And by the way, I'm not asking this. And so for those of you that are being vulnerable and putting up some low numbers on here, I want to honor you. And I want you to realize that I'm not doing this to shame you. This is not for us to be in a space to be like, God, I suck. It's for you to understand where you're at and what's possible. Because how many of you, regardless of the number, just one more, 10% more, if you're a 3, what would a 4 feel like for you on a regular basis? Would that be significant for you to look at creating a different identity and moving something forward that's more meaningful for your life? Would it be worth it? Because think about it. If you're a 3 or a 6 or whatever your number is, imagine what it is that you're giving to everybody else. You're giving a fraction of that. So if you're a 6, the best you're probably putting out is a 5.5. Otherwise, you're at that level of burnout where you're basically crawling on the floor and you're getting up every morning going, I don't know, I can't do it again. And it's Groundhog's Day all over again. Think about it, because if you can't do it for you, and I want some of you to think about it, if you have a partner or your family or your community or your kids, whatever it is, who needs more vibrancy and energy and presence from you right now? Who needs that? And maybe it's you. Maybe you need that. Aren't you worth filling your cup so that you can put that out? Your bank accounts are depleted right now. This is a gift for you to lean in and say, then who do I want to be? If this person, that was my old identity, whoever I was, and it's amazing. I talk to people all the time. I had a group of transitioning C-level executives. I did a presentation in Dallas a couple of years ago, and it was all former CEOs, COOs, CFOs, 50 people in the room. And I went around and we introduced ourselves, and I'm like, tell me who you are. And every person's like, I'm Joe. I'm the former CFO of XYZ Corporation. I'm Kate. I'm the former COO of blah, blah, blah. And we went all the way around, and I'm like, wow, I just heard 50 people talk and not one person told me who you were. Everybody was attached to this identity of the work, of the stuff, of what they do. So we got into conversation, and this one former COO got a little hot. He didn't like some of what I was sharing, which I get a lot. Some of you might be feeling triggered right now. Opportunity to explore where that trigger's coming from. It's not about me. It's about whatever belief, whatever thing is holding you back right now. So I just offer that you get curious instead of trying to punch it in the face. There's something triggering for you right now, or some truth showing up. It's just let yourself say, isn't that interesting? I wonder where that's coming from. Wonder what that's trying to show me or teach me. Because this has nothing to do with me. If you're like, by the way, you can think I'm like batshit crazy and I'm just like crazy and you're like, I'm not your person. Fair enough. I'm not for everybody. I can only be true to who I am and show up for what I know can help somebody that needs to hear this, right? And so I want you to think about that too when you're showing up in your life. You're not for everybody. And it's a matter of, are you showing up in a way that your cup is full and you're showing up in a way to serve for the people that have been waiting to hear from you? Be that lighthouse, because somebody right now is like, holy crap, this is exactly the message I needed to hear. I can feel that, right? And so I love that. I can see it in the comments. And some of you are like, how the heck did I end up on this call? Guess what? You don't have to stay here. If it's not working for you, then go do something that is. We get so stuck in these routines around what we think we should do, and we make ourselves miserable when it has nothing to do with me. If I'm not for you, I'm not for you. So anyway, tangent. So coming back to this space around really understanding who needs you to step up. I want you to think about the fact that you can't possibly be your best until you're filling your cup. We need to let go of this notion that says it's selfish to put myself first. No, it's selfish when you don't. It's selfish when you keep scraping out of a barrel that's empty and all that's there is the gross sludge, tar stuff that's left over because it's all dried up, because no one's been replenishing it. Think about a well when it dries up, right? It gets all gross. That's what you're serving up to people. And you're like, I love you. I care about you. Here you go. How is that you being anything of service and creating the kind of legacy, living legacy in every moment that you want to be creating? And so I ask you that if you walked away from, so the COO coming back, sometimes I'm a manifesting generator, I can go all over the place, but coming back to the COO who got very lit up in our conversation, he's like, well, let me just tell you the culture at my own. And I'm going to try to sound like he was all stodgy and curmudgeon-y. And he's just like, let me just say the culture at my old company was just for crap. It was so bad and blah, blah, blah. And he's just going on and he's playing victim and he's this martyr. And it's just so, oh, woe is me. And when he was done, and he did not like my response, but when he was done, I said, wow, I go, shame on you. And he said, excuse me. And I said, you were the chief operating officer, correct? Culture starts at the top. If your culture was so horrible, shame on you for not doing something about it. And I looked at him and I said, I hope that this time that you have, this downtime, this transition might be a space that you'll reconsider how you want to show up and lead for your next position. And of course, he came up to me because I always get this afterwards. He came up to me and he was just like, hoorah to that, right? I love that. Thank you. So he came up to me afterward and he's like, I just have to say, and this is one of my favorite moments with people. And some of you are like probably even wanting to say this perhaps, but especially people that are so connected to their identity around what they do, and they can't let it go for the transition that they're in to see the opportunity of choosing who they want to become. He's like, I just have to say, no one's ever, and I finished his sentence. I said, talk to you that way. I know. And he looked at me and I looked back at him and I simply said, and then I didn't say anything else. And he finally got to a point where he's like, well, maybe I have some things to think about. And I'm like, go at it, right? Because here's the thing. And we can sit in a space to commiserate and complain. Think about our culture. Our culture is all about complaining and commiserating. It's not about connecting and communicating. If you keep focusing on what happened to you, if you keep focusing on that identity that was connected to what you think you lost, instead of opening up access to understand what's been given to you as an opportunity and gift, to literally choose your intention, to start thinking about what you really want. I think that I don't remember who wrote it, but you haven't had that moment since you were 18. How many of you need space to reclaim or think about or ask the question, who am I? Who am I if I unattach myself from whatever that was? Who do I want to be when I grow up? How many of you still are like, I don't know what I want to be? I know. And by the way, as long as there's breath in your belly or breath in your lungs and fire in your belly, you can reinvent yourself 100 times. You are not done. I don't care what your age is irrelevant. Many of you create these stories and these beliefs and these excuses when it comes down to getting clear and setting intentions and saying, then who do I want to be? And I want you to realize that when you get into that space, there's 2 steps you need to realize. Decide the type of person you want to be. So these are the questions you can ask yourself, and you might write these down. What do you stand for? Like, what is important to you? What do you stand for? I can have a whole conversation about ageism. Yes, it is real. And yes, it's also a story you create. I'm just going to say there's 2 sides to that equation. I don't have the time to go into that at length here. Yes, and there is a whole yes and conversation around that. So I just want to throw that out because I see that in the thread. I want you to think about, what do you stand for? What are your principles and values? And some of it is, maybe those aren't the places that you should be looking then. Go someplace where you're valued, whether or not somebody, I mean, people can say that, hey, they don't hire women, they don't hire, all kinds of things are happening. We have all kinds of social injustices and inequity that happen on multiple levels, and people that are being marginalized for all kinds of reasons. And when you start to get intentional about who you choose to be and what you need to be doing to align that, trust me, the universe moves all that crap and noise out of your way and starts to align you with the companies and the places that see the value for what you bring to the table. What happens is we keep telling ourselves, well, I should be looking there. I should be making them see. Instead of going, this energy doesn't feel right. It's like people that go on a first date. It cracks me up when they're like, well, what if he doesn't like me? My question always is, what if you don't like him? So many of you are going into your interviews and going into this job search going, oh my God, what if that company doesn't like me? And you've never even planted the seed to say, what if I don't like this company? Do I know what I stand for? Do I know what my principles and values are? Do I know what the culture is that I need to feel like I can thrive? And who do I choose to be? How do I choose to lead inside that space? Those questions need to be asked first so that you can get in a space to get intentional to align yourself with the people that are like, holy crap, you're the lighthouse I need. And I want you to know that there is power in that. Too many of us will let that story be what guides us instead of rewriting the story to change the path. So then it's prove it to yourself with small wins. I want you to think about, again, going back to that idea habit, and then I'm going to open this up for a minute for some questions or thoughts. Habits don't have to be this whole, like, now I'm a person that likes to clear the whole deck. It's just how I'm wired. A lot of people need just a little win. So think about what's 1% you can do today that would be meaningful for you, because 1% compounded over every day over a year is 37 times better. 1% compounded every day for a year. So every day, if you woke up and just asked yourself, what's 1% more I could do to move myself in alignment with that identity that I just created for myself? If this is who I say I am, what's something that is 1% more? And I love the way Brene Brown says it, right? She's like, look, I don't know what's going to happen way out there, but every day I get up and go, today I choose to be brave. What does brave look like today? And she's like, I don't know. I can't tell you that I'm going to say that for tomorrow. All I know is I get up and I say today I choose to be brave. So today I choose to access, to be intentional about that 1%. What is my 1% today? Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. Right now, what can you do right now to move the needle? And for some of you, that first 1% is giving yourself space to ask the tough questions. If you don't know the answer to those 3 questions that I just asked you, what do you stand for? What are your core values and principles? And who is it you're choosing to become? I might offer that that's your opportunity to step in first. Now, I have 2 things that are available for you, because I am a big believer that for me to come here and activate some things for you and then just be like, hey, high five, good luck, that's me being irresponsible as a leader myself. So I have a free opportunity, and I have one that is a very small. If you want to engage and be doing this work to help you figure this out with some support and some tools. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to put in the free opportunity. And actually, let me get in there. So this first one is a free ebook I have available. I just put it in the chat for everybody. I'm happy to send it out to Shannon as well, but it is just a free ebook. It is on how to destroy the noise. It is 13 strategies on how to destroy the noise. And one of the pieces of the noise is the S, which is the shooting all over yourself. I have some very clear strategies on how you can get rid of some of the programming and the stories and the stuff that's getting in the way, that's blocking you from stepping into your next level. That is a free gift. There's even some posters you can pull out for those of you that like visuals. It's a way for you to dig in and get some tools and resources right away. For those of you that are like, okay, that's awesome, and I need more. I need something that's going to help me dig in. I need to know how to really get into a place to identify my what, why, who. How do I create habits that are aligned with how I'm wired? I want to understand this more. I want to understand more about who I am. I run a monthly community. I run a monthly group. I go live 4 times in the month. So every week I go live, except the 5th week because it's a free week every once in a while. But I go live once a week. 2 of those calls are training calls like this. They are me giving you tools. They are ways that we walk through and we break, like this is a big high level kind of conversation. I break everything that we just talked about. And right now we're actually really digging into habits. We break them down into finite like pieces to help you put things in place. So every month I do 2 training calls and then I do 2 Q&A group coaching calls. So there's hot seat coaching where you can come in and be like, Candy, I'm trying this. This isn't working. Help me. And we will hot seat it. We will get in. We will Q&A. And I do these calls. They're an hour each one of these calls. So I do that. I go live, like I said, 4 times a month. You also get a private Facebook community that you get to actively engage with others that are doing this work. You have a private portal where all of the replays of the trainings are there. You can get all the trainings I've done to date. So you can go back and get anything. I do a lot of like free challenges and 5-day workshops and things, all of that. You get a lot of that bonus stuff in there. So there's just a ton of resources. That runs $77 a month and there's no commitment. You can join for a month, decide it's not for you, leave, or you can just, you pay it month to month as long as you want to be in it. I will put that in the group as well for anyone that wants to check it out. Invite you, because this is what we do. A lot of what we just did here, it just goes deeper. It gives you the support. It gives you a way to actually hold yourself accountable and get in and activate and integrate the things that are going to be meaningful. And we have an awesome community. So those are the 2 things I want to offer you. One is the free ebook, and one is for those of you that are like, I really need some support. I could use some coaching. I could use tools, real strategies on how to look at this and take advantage of this opportunity right now. There is a way that you can join us in the monthly program and get access to that as well. So that being said, I want to leave you with one thought, and then I want to open this up for questions or turn it back over to Kathy and Shannon. But I want you to realize that you don't know who, you don't know how, and you don't know to what level you can affect, influence, or impact change for another person until you choose to show up. Again, who needs you to be vibrant, energized, present? Who needs you to show up? And the question for you is, are you ready to show up at your next level? So with that, I want to thank everybody. I love all of the comments and the things that are going on. And if there's questions, or Shannon and Kathy, I want to turn it back over to you and let you like moderate. I want to be cognizant of time or however things run. So thank you very much.
You're fine on time. You can take another 10, 15 minutes if you'd like.
Oh, perfect.
I think we started you 10 minutes late. So yeah, so folks, put your questions in the chat box, or
even raise a hand if you want to just.
Or yeah, raise your hand. She can see everything.
Yep, I got the gallery up. So if you want to raise your hand or anything in there, questions, comments, anything you want.
Lots of accolades.
I
Energizing. You are awesome. Yes, we know this. I told you the stage is still burning hot from the last time she graced our stage. Love your honesty.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
I feel like an 8 energy wise, like an 8 energy wise. Thank you, Candy. You've got the right name. Doesn't she have the right name? She's an energizer.
Buddy.
And not just for the
Oh,
short
I love
term, like simple carbohydrates.
Right, right.
She's
Yes, so I love that Cherie just wrote, now you have to do something. So if you are feeling activated, the opportunity is put something in motion. Some of you are intellectual. You like your intellectual entertainment. And so you are people that will read every book, you do everything, and then you do nothing with it. The knowledge is only as good as the action that you take. If you just keep like absorbing stuff and you're like, but I read the book. Yeah. And and you again, right? Yes. And so one of the questions, what caused you to want to do this as a career? It was interesting. As I was in my corporate career, I got very frustrated, one, by the box I kept getting put into, the limitations on what other people thought where I had to play. And I would watch them bring in other people from the outside. And I'm like, this is everything that I've been sharing and talking about. Yet somehow I wasn't seen as an expert because I was in-house. I love companies that say we're going to grow people from within. And yet they always go outside, right? And so I realized that if I had a bigger impact and voice, doing it on my own terms versus someone else telling me the box that I could play in. So for some of you right now, there is an opportunity to think about consulting or things outside of that. And I had a deep passion for wanting to help people redefine leadership. I define leadership as a function of three things. It's a function of how you choose to show up. It's a function of how you choose to serve others. And it's a function of how you take personal responsibility inside those spaces. Ultimately, leadership being a choice, which is not something that's a common philosophy in most of corporate. It's you're either born a leader or made a leader, and this is what leadership looks like. I wanted to redefine that. And so I found myself really compelled. There was a couple big pivotal moments that showed up. That was the universe's way of kicking me in the butt saying it's time. And so I was ready to leave Milwaukee. I don't do cold. So this weather is just like a crappy reminder of why I moved south. There was a lot of choices in that, but essentially I wanted more freedom to be who I was and express myself in my fullness, and didn't feel like I could do that in the environments I was playing in. And so I've been able to do that. And I ironically have gone back to all the companies I used to work with, and I do training with them now. So I get to be the expert because apparently I left and now I'm an expert. And I get to bring different perspective and training there. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit. Cedar says, great president, do you have any suggestions on some basic ways to motivate myself? Yes. Here's the thing. Most people are waiting to be motivated when actually we have it backwards. We think we need to get motivated to get momentum. You actually need momentum to get motivated. So the first way to get motivated is do something. I don't care what it is. There's a great, and if you want a great TED talk, watch Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, that if you know there's something you could take action on, say it's going out to LinkedIn, say it's reaching out to your network and saying, hey, wondering if we could connect. I'm looking for a new, whatever it is. Instead of talking yourself out of it and having the story, the minute you start to feel the resistance, you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you physically stand up and move and then take action. What happens is you disrupt that story from continuing. The way we get motivated is we have to create momentum. We keep waiting to get motivated to get momentum when we actually need to put something in motion. So think about a body in motion stays in motion, a body at rest stays at rest. If you're at rest and you're waiting, you need something to activate. So do something small, anything. Even if it's some jumping jacks, even if take action that puts you in a force of motion. That motion and momentum will start to drive your motivation. Because one of the things, and actually, if I have a quick minute, I'm going to do a quick exercise with you guys. Can I do that? Do I have a quick minute?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So here's what we're going to do. And pardon me, I'm actually in sweatpants on the bottom because it's just too freaking cold and I need something that's got, so if you can see my sweatpants, just, you're all okay. But what I want you to do, if you guys are willing to play with me for a minute, is stand up where you're at. Stand up real quick. We're going to activate. This is a way to take action. It's a way to change. Because how many of you, just by show of hands, or you can drop it in there, how many of you would say everybody's living their full potential? You think if people are living their full potential, you're like, no, people aren't living their full potential. How many of you are like, I'm not living my full potential? Right? Okay, so I love the hands going up. So here's what happens is so I want you to think about, there's 4 boxes, right? There's potential that leads to your actions, that leads to your results, that leads to your belief. So if you're not tapping into your full potential, what do you think happens to your action? Yeah, so I love that. Thanks, Stephen, right? And I'm going to use a very professional term, and if I offend somebody again, just you can let it lay however it is. We have to ask the intentions and the actions that we take, right? If our potential. So if we half-ass our actions, what do you think happens to our results? Yeah, right? They go down. I love the symbols, the down sign, down, right? So then what happens to what we believe about ourselves? Oh, great. So we keep going down. So then wait, we're going to tap into potential again. And what do you think happens? It keeps going down, right? So if we now don't think much of ourselves, then we tap into less potential, which means we further half-ass our actions, which means we get half-action results. Well, I'm going to tell you, I like to tell people it's time to go full ass in both cheeks. We're going to full ass things and go both cheeks in. Okay. So this is the opportunity for us to change what we believe. Too often we say, I got to see it to believe it, instead of realize if I believe it, I will see it. So we're going to start with the visualizing the belief first. So everybody stand up, make sure you got room to just move around, and we're going to do a real quick exercise. So what I want you to do is please make sure your knees are soft. Don't anybody pass out on me. This is not like whatever. I just want you to put your body facing forward. You're going to turn at the waist. But what I want you to realize is you're just going to keep your feet planted. I want you now to raise your right arm in front of you and point your finger. Okay. Now, don't anybody like hurt yourself or anything, but what I want you to do is keeping your feet forward and your body kind of loose. I want you to just reach back as far as you can with that finger and note the point where your finger lands. I want you to go as far back as you can. Just reach back and just make notation and then come back to me. Okay. Okay. So now what I want you to do is I want you to still stand. I want you to close your eyes for a minute. Okay. Now, you are only going to do this in your mind. You are not going to do this physically. I want you to imagine, so don't move your arm at all, but I want you to now imagine raising your right arm and pointing your finger. Just see it in your mind. I want you to imagine it. I now also want you to imagine that you're twisting all the way back around again, and you're going twice as far as you went the first time. I want you to see it. I want you to see yourself do that. Remember the point, how far you turned, and I want you to see it right now. I want you to see yourself twisting back twice as far. Everybody got that? Okay, now I want you to open your eyes. I want you to raise your right arm again. And I want you to turn back and go as far as you possibly can and see where you land. And I love when I can actually see people when some of you are on the video. Okay, so come back. Don't sit down yet. One more time. So I want you again to close your eyes. Okay. I want you to close your eyes. You're not going to move. I want you again to imagine you're raising your right arm and pointing your finger. Don't actually raise it, Diane. I know, it's like Simon Says. So I want you to just imagine raising your arm. And this time I want you to pretend you're a cartoon character. And I want you to see yourself go so far back that you actually corkscrew your body. I want you to like envision that you could reach so far back that you could corkscrew your body. I want you to see it. Everybody got it? Okay, open your eyes. One more time, raise your arm, right arm, finger out. And this time I want you to go as far back as you possibly can. I love when I can see you guys do this. And then I want you to sit down. What did you notice? I love the thumbs up. Thanks, Jim.
That is amazing.
It's amazing. What's amazing about it?
I was able to go a little bit farther each time. Quite a lot farther, actually.
Yeah. How many of you were, by the way, any of you that I saw better be raising your hand because I saw all of you go further. How many of you went further? So what does that tell you?
I could.
You could. I love that Stephen's pointing to his head. We limit
have to
ourselves
imagine.
only by what we think about ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Right, Jim?
Right.
Yep.
We have far more potential than we give ourselves credit for. We have far more we can tap into in terms of action. So when I hear, what do I do to get motivated? Do that little exercise with you. How many of you are motivated to say, holy cow, well, if I can do that. By the way, I'm at a point now where I almost can corkscrew my body. Why not? But how many of you started going, oh, I haven't stretched. Oh, I'm old. Oh, I'm this. I'm only going to be able to go. Oh, I worked. I mean, you had whatever thought that you were like, because some of you that I saw, you went here. And then by the end of it, you were back all the way around here.
Yep.
I just thought that might be a powerful way to bring this all home.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. See if there's any last question in here before I got all these comments. I can't even like keep up now. Let's see. Anything. Did the same thing to imagine moving faster than I actually did. Yep. Brain stops us. Awesome. Mind over matter, yes. And actually, when we drop into our body, into what our intuition is telling us, into those guided whispers, and let our brain be the secondary that lets us figure out how, your life will be much more ease and flow. Drop in, you know where you need to be, you know what's open for you, but we get this in the way and try to logically rationalize everything, instead of letting ourselves being in a space to respond to what presents.